how come, and really why is the topic of native plants so important in big cities as it relates to the air we breathe?
Excellent question. So I guess following up on my comment that we have an amazing amount of native plant diversity here, and also Erin's excellent point that wetland and the native plant diversity in the wetlands is really critical to supporting some really important nature-based solutions. I will say that we have 1,300 native plant species just in this region. We're one of the most native plant diverse urban areas in the country, and it's a huge resource that I think we're missing out on in opportunities for nature-based solutions with it. Of those species, fewer than 200 are trees. Trees are super important, but there are so many other species that do really, really important things for our ecosystems, but also for us. And we know very little about them, and we know very little about how to effectively manage and restore them. So why that's important for the air that we breathe is because trees do provide a hugely important component of mitigating some of the aspects of being in a very urban setting with a lot of concrete. They provide shade and they help cool spaces. But the more diverse planting is, the more diverse a natural area is, the greater the benefits that come from that. The more carbon sequestration, the greater accumulation of pollutants, and just the better regulation over time, including through droughts and heat and freezing spells. They're much more resilient the more diverse that they are. So we're working really actively to understand how to support and restore diverse native plant communities, both in natural areas as well as in very urban settings. So like on green roofs, we've examined how the native plant species from this region can perform on green roofs and made recommendations about what species may be best able to survive up there, and also provide great resources for pollinators and other wildlife that aren't expecting to see this really amazing wildflower that it needs to survive in an urban setting. So we've done research like that, and I thought maybe a good example would be, from one of the natural areas at the Botanic Garden at our main campus in Glencoe. It's called McDonald Woods. It's 100 acres of a remnant woodland that 30 years ago was mostly buckthorn and some very tall old oak trees. And 30 years ago, we started actively restoring this space. So we removed the invasive species slowly and over time. We reintroduced prescribed fire, which the Native American tribes in this region for centuries before European colonization were using to manage and support native plant diversity. We've reintroduced fire to that space. And then we've actively seeded millions of seeds of hundreds of native species that are most likely to thrive in that space. And and now we have more than 500 native plant species that are thriving in this area. We know how to grow them, how to support their ability to thrive in this space, and they themselves are supporting thousands of wildlife species, as well as helping to support the air that we breathe in many ways in sequestering carbon. We've actually done research to show that the woods that are restored with more diverse species are actively sequestering more carbon than those that are just oaks and buckthorn, which, as you drive home, you might notice that we have a lot of unrestored spaces with a lot of potential for much more effective nature-based solutions with more active stewardship and the incorporation of more native plant diversity into those spaces. The last thing I'll mention is that it's great to know about the native plants and how to grow them and where they can be grown, but one of the biggest limitations to being able to do this and employ this for nature-based solutions is that they're not available to homeowners, to practitioners. Finding the appropriate native plant species for the work that you're doing can be incredibly challenging, and many of them are just not available in a marketplace at all. Some of them are very, very available, like some of the most common prairie species you can grow you can purchase in some cases even at Home Depot now, but for the most part, it's very challenging to find them. And so we're actively working with collaborators locally, regionally, and nationally to change this. This is not unique to the Chicago region. It's a global problem. We were actively a part of a National Academy of Sciences report on the native seed supply in the US that found that even with unlimited money to purchase seeds, there just aren't enough native seeds of the right native species available in the marketplace. And so there are huge supply and demand challenges there. as well as just the science to understand how to grow some of these very challenging species, because they're all unique and they all have their own story to tell, and they all can make it really hard to actually get them to grow. So we're actively working to help develop collaborations across the region and across the nation, including the development of a national interagency seed and restoration center that was just announced this year, and a bill was introduced in the House and the Senate last week to help support it, to help codify it and then provide funding for it that would really help bring everybody together to meet this demand for native seeds.